Why does my heart go on beating? Why do these eyes of mine cry?
Alright, look, let me preface this video. At its core, it's a love letter to Brisbane. I was born here and I've spent a lot of time in the city, and every few months Brisbane manages to pleasantly surprise me. You know, the lush green roads, the old Queenslanders, the charming nonsense of every turn and weave of the streets. I just want everyone to know that I've written this with love because what I'm about to say, well, it's the truth. And the truth is, Brisbane is shit. Ask anyone you know to list 5 good things about Brisbane. After naming the weather, West End and the fucking jacarandas, they'll just stand there like a stunned mullet trying to think of something, anything that doesn't make them look like a tool beater. And look, I'll happily acknowledge that there are some fantastic aspects of Brisbane, but you know the game fuck, marry, kill? I want to do all 3 of those things to the city all the time. Every day I go about Brisbane doing the same activities, and every day Brisbane finds new and interesting ways to shit me to tears. Honestly, it's ridiculous, and I'm torn as well because while I genuinely do love the place, I feel like every second I live here drives me closer and closer to the day where they lock me up in an insane asylum and give me a frontal lobotomy. And we all know what they say about that. I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a cock in my mouth. Not that there's anything wrong with having a cock in your mouth, mind you. Beer just tastes better. That is, of course, quite unlike car exhaust, which as we all know tastes even worse than beer and cock combined. You don't need to eat a catalytic converter to taste some engine excretions in Brisbane, because if you live anywhere near a main road, and in Brisbane they're all main roads, as soon as you leave your house in the morning for your daily commute, your nostrils are immediately assaulted by the acrid smell of 50 million Ford Rangers. Take this for example. Welcome to Ipswich Road. Population 50,000 cars daily back in 2015. What's it like now? Well, thanks to the post-COVID migration wave, there are a lot more Victorians on the road and accidents are rising as well. Coincidence? I think not. Anyway, with 340.6 Olympic swimming pools worth of cars travelling down its noodly little median every day, if you're stuck here in peak hour, you better make sure your brakes work, otherwise your teeth might get very well acquainted with your steering wheel. But look, you can't place all the blame on the roads. I'm on the southern bank of the Brisbane River, and right over there is the northern bank and also a lady who forgot how to walk or something. Now, while I could swim there, the odds are I'll end up being lunch for one of the thousands of bull sharks that live in the water, so I'll have to drive. Because I have to drive, that 500 metre distance has now become a 30-minute commute. Or I could just walk over this bridge, but that'd be too easy. Essentially what I'm trying to say is that a man with no arms or eyes could do a better job at creating a city plan than whatever absolute fuckwit designed this giant inedible plate of concrete spaghetti. Unlike Melbourne, which is beset by boulevards, Brisbane's basically bereft of them, and if you've ever wondered why such a monster dong of a city has these narrow little bottlenecks everywhere, the answer is because people in the 19th century were fucking stupid. Queensland didn't even exist when the city was founded, so the concept of Brisbane becoming a bustling beta city was, much like today, completely unbelievable. The first settlers laid out a grid of narrow streets for the CBD, but the rest of the city became a bit of a free-for-all, and I guess the early city planners that came here took one look at the hills and thought, fuck this, I'm going back to Melbourne, because if you look at the city now, it's a fucking mess. It's a capital city that was never designed to be a capital city, but that wouldn't be such an issue if it had good public transport, and guess what? It doesn't. Thanks to the city's low density, trains in Brisbane don't serve all that much of the population, which means all they're really good for is providing convenient places for crackheads to have seizures next to 4-year-olds. But if trains turn you off, don't worry, because there's a ferry to whisk you away on the water. If you've ever been assaulted by an esche on one of Brisbane's trains and thought to yourself, you know what this needs? More nausea and vomiting, then my friend, this is your mode of transport. So effective is their coverage, in fact, that they can take you anywhere in the city that you'd want to go, so long as it's within a 5-kilometre radius of the CBD and on the Brisbane River. And look, I'd like to say to you that you could escape all this nonsense in the city centre itself, but that would be a lie. Thanks to an historically extreme lack of interest in preserving heritage buildings, the CBD has been transformed into this aggressively dull mixture of skyscrapers and fucking real estate agents. Even when it's full of people, the main mall is still so boring that it literally puts people to sleep. And I mean, sure, newer buildings are starting to use a bit more architectural flair, but as is par for the course in this city, there's always something behind the facade that ruins it. On the western side of the CBD, this big bulbous casino is being built, which is a piece of critical infrastructure direly needed in our cost of living crisis. You do have to admit it's a very impressive structure though, with its very own bridge to ferry people from South Bank straight to its blackjack tables and a gaping hole between 2 massive cheeks that you're only allowed to access if you throw money at it, just like your mum. But unlike your mum, I don't get paid when I suck off truckers behind a servo, so I don't have enough disposable income to gamble. I mean, if I did, I'd probably spend most of it starting a grassroots campaign to force the government to demolish the Grey Street Bridge. I mean, just look at it. I can't stand this bridge. They could have built it like the Walter Taylor Bridge, which is notable for the fact that people used to live in its pylons like a shit version of Round the Twist, but they built this instead. This is the AU Falcon of bridges. It gets the job done just fine, but holy fuck, it's ugly. If you put all the bridges of Brisbane into a classroom, this bridge would be the one sitting at the back eating boogers. Do you want to know which bridge would be at the front getting a gold star? This one, the Karilpa Bridge, which for some reason everyone else hates. But not me, I fucking love this bridge. You want to know why? No? Well, I'll tell you anyway. The bridge was opened in 2009 and was built using the principles of tensegrity, by which a structure is held up using the forces of compression inside a structure under tension. Now, it might look like a group of hills hoists having a gangbang, but each cable and tube is integral to the entire structure. During the building of it, every single component had to be perfectly made down to the millimetre, otherwise it could have halted the entire project. It is a masterpiece of engineering, and if you think that the Alibaba Sydney Harbour Bridge is more impressive than this giant monument to bondage, then you're either blind or a bird, because I'm pretty sure birds would always prefer the Story Bridge due to the fact that there are more cars to shit on. But come Friday evening, the birds clear out anyway, because just north of the bridge is Fortitude Valley, a smorgasbord of buggery and Brisbane's prime destination for drunk 18-year-olds, coked out FIFO workers and people who have just been released from Wake-Up prison. It's definitely a sight to behold, and also one of the most horrifyingly unpleasant places you could ever possibly hope not to be. And for most people older than 30, partying on the Gaza Strip would be a more appealing way to spend an evening than stepping foot on the valley's piss-soaked pavement. It's a bloody valley, alright, a culture valley, a valley of degeneracy and vice, and you know what, when I was an 18-year-old, I fucking loved it. You'd never know what a night would hold in the valley. Would a stranger pick a fight with you? Would someone throw a pot plant off an 18-story balcony? I mean, it's all possible when you're young. But as people grow and change over the course of decades, so too do cities. They evolve so slowly that you don't notice it day to day until one day you wake up and it's 20 years later and the same city you knew as a kid has evolved into this weird tangled mess of problems, a process that you can't remember ever seeing start. But the truth is, it never really started. Brisbane's always been a mess. You are just getting older. I think of Brisbane the same way I think of cats. Cats are assholes, they know it, they don't give two squirts what you think of it, and you can't help but love them for it. Brisbane can be boring and ugly and messy, but it's never going to change that, and even if it could, it wouldn't care what you think. That's why every Australian, no matter who they are, secretly loves this city. It's the bad boy of Australian capitals, the black sheep of the family, and there's nothing Aussies love more than a true blue underdog. Look, what I'm trying to say here is that at the end of the day, Brisbane's got its good bits and its bad bits. But like it or not, if Brisbane wasn't shit, it wouldn't be Brisbane. And you know what? I'll be damned if it isn't the best shit city in the entire fucking world. And now, a haiku. Stop calling it Bris Vegas. It is nothing like Las Vegas. Kindly shut the fuck up.